morning. Welcome to Sunday School here at Trinity Lutheran Church. I'd like to start with our chant. God is good.
All the time.
And all the time,
God is good.
Excellent. I'm glad you remember. That's a great blessing also that we haven't written down, as this year we focus on counting our blessings. We just have so many things to be thankful for. Today we're going to look at a story about a little boy named David. And man, there was a huge challenge in his life called a giant. His name was Goliath. If you are looking in your Sparks Bible, you need to turn to page 130. And if you're looking in your Brown Bible, that would be page 314. Now, have any of you ever had just one of those great big challenges in your life? Like, I don't think I'm ever going to pass those additions timings. I just don't think it's possible. Or, I don't know. There are just so many things that feel like ginormous problems in our lives. But today's blessing that we get to write down is that God can do the impossible. He can fix these things. So let's check out and see how he fixes David's problem in our story. David and Goliath. King Saul and his army looked out from their mountain hideout. Their enemies, the Philistines, were camped on the opposite mountain. In the valley between stood Goliath, the tallest man Saul had ever seen. "Who will fight me?" Goliath roared, waving his spear. "Who can face the mighty Goliath?" he shouted, lifting up his sword. Saul and his army were afraid, and they could not win against the Philistines. They couldn't beat Goliath. Surely they would be captured and become slaves. A beam of sunlight bounced off Goliath's bronze helmet. His voice shook the leaves in the trees, and all the birds hid behind their branches. "Send out your best warrior," Goliath ordered. "Let me fight against him. And if I win, you will be our slaves. If your soldier wins, we will serve you and your God." And Saul waited. No one stepped forward to take Goliath's challenge. Saul felt a small tug on his sleeve. Looking down, he saw David, a young shepherd boy. "Well, I'll do it, King Saul," David said. "I'll fight Goliath." "But you're just a boy. How can you beat a gigantic man like Goliath?" And Saul turned to go. "Wait, King Saul," David said. "God protects me from the wolves and the bears that go after my sheep. God will protect me now too." David reached down and he picked up 5 smooth stones in his right hand, and he carried the same sling that he used to chase away those wolves and wild animals. See that sling right there? It's a little pouch that they spin around really fast, and it'll whip a rock out, sort of like a bullet. Saul patted David's head, and he pointed down the rocky path leading to the valley. Goliath laughed when he saw David. "You are the warrior they send out against me?" And David slipped his hand into his pouch, selected a stone. "I'm not afraid of your spear and sword, Goliath," David said. "God will help me." And David rushed towards Goliath, swinging his sling. The smooth stone flew through the air, and it hit Goliath on the forehead. Down, 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 Goliath fell. Down fell his sword, down fell his spear, down fell his mighty shield. And David picked up Goliath's bronze helmet from the ground, and he held it high in the air. Saul and all his soldiers rose up with a shout. David, a small shepherd boy, had beaten the mighty Goliath. Philistines saw that Goliath had fallen, they were afraid and they ran away. Trusting in God gave David courage when he needed it most. All right, great story. I love this one because even when we think there are impossible things ahead of us, like a giant, God can pave the way, make it work, do the impossible. All right, so today's project, your white piece of paper and your colors. All right, Nicole did a great job with this drawing as she drew the gigantic Goliath. Here's his big shield and his big spear. And here's little bitty David. And he just has that little pouch with his little rocks in it. So I want you to draw your own version of this story with Goliath. Make sure he's super tall and super scary. And a little bitty David, who was still just a young boy, but had already been anointed to become Israel's next king. In fact, he was anointed by Samuel. Remember that guy we heard about last week who God was calling Samuel? Yeah, he's the one that God told to go find David and anoint him to be Israel's next king. Good things. It's wonderful how these stories all interconnect. Oh, so our blessing that we learned about today is that God can do the impossible. Wonderful. Let's come over here to the flower and write it on our petals. Which one should we choose? Right here. Excellent. All right. I hope you join us again next week as we learn more about our many blessings. Thank you.
Oh, that's my alarm. That means it's time for another TLC Sing-Along! Today we're going to sing Be Bold to remind us to be bold in faith, so join us. And like a force ghost that appears to help us in our time of need, we have Katie here to play guitar and sing for us. Let's sing together, Be Bold. Be bold.
Be bold.
Be strong.
Be strong.
For the Lord thy God is with thee. Be bold.
Be bold.
Be strong.
Be strong.
For the Lord thy God is with thee. Be not afraid, be not dismayed, walk in faith and victory. Come on, walk in faith and victory. For the Lord our God is with thee. Be bold.
Be bold.
Be strong.
Be strong.
For the Lord thy God is with thee. Be bold.
Be bold.
Be strong.
Be strong.
For the Lord thy God is with thee. Be not afraid, be not dismayed, walk in faith and victory. Come on, walk in faith and victory. For the Lord our God is with thee. Thanks for sitting with us, and remember to be bold. And like a force ghost appearing when we need her the most, here, force ghost.
Forest.
No, force ghost. Ooh, you shot it out of the... You're like, Thumper, come out. And like a force ghost coming out when we need her the most.
I still hear forest.
This is a train wreck. It's just like two trains coming at each other and like they can't stop. Everywhere. Are you ready?
I'm not ready to be bold.